I don't know what he's doing
I
though.
often hear you talk about a character's weak side. How do you determine which side is their weak side?
Usually, there's two ways to do this, right? And some people are believers in one method and some are believers in the other. If you're lazy, you could Google that shit on Alta Vista and you will find a list of characters in this game and whether you should sidestep them left or right. That list exists. Google that shit, right? But some people, usually way more advanced players, don't believe in that philosophy. And they don't believe that characters have a weak side per se. And in a sense, they're right. It's more about choosing what move you want to sidestep. Specifically, right? You know how I always say be specific? That's kind of true. If you're trying to be a champ, you gotta be specific. There's no real, like, for example, Mishima's, right? They have an Electric Wind God Fist and a Hell Sweep. Those are like super primary moves, right? So, because to sidestep those two primary moves, you go to your left, most people say Mishimas are weak to the left. But that's kind of like a ignorant bigot way to look at it. You're generalizing, right? So, there are some moves that track to the left, and there are some moves that track to both sides, homing moves, right? So it really depends on how much of a bitch you want to be. But if you're just at a regular level, it's a pretty good starting point. You know, those lists. Yeah, I see Hikari Senka is linking that ass. That's probably it. It's like a good starting point. But really, the real answer is that it depends on what you're trying to sidestep. It's still a really good, like, you know, if let's say you're coaching someone and they don't know, and you go, hey, that character's weak to the left. That's like a huge tip. It's so valuable. It'll change a tournament match just like that. So, on the one hand, you could be one of those guys that says, well, every character doesn't have a weak side. You have to be specific with what you sidestep. Yeah, you could be one of those guys, but in the real world, in a real tournament scenario, that is some hardcore advice. Such a good advice, it'll change everything, you know? So, whatever.